there's a window above my sink, and I can see into the yard. And in the yard, there's a tree, an apple tree. And so I'm just looking at the tree, and I'm really not thinking about anything. And all of a sudden, I became the tree. And it was like my consciousness was taken over. And I literally became that tree. And the tree was me. There was no separation at all. And I was every kind of life form that I could think of. I was the bird in the tree. I was in bug that the bird was going to eat. I was everything. And fish and other kinds of animals, everything I thought of, I was it.
I'd like to welcome to the show Lynn K. Russell. How you doing, Lynn?
Hi.
How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on the show. I am excited to talk to you and go deep down the NDE rabbit hole with you.
Yes, and that's what I do.
Yes, near-death
Freaky.
experiences. So near-death experiences have been a big part of this show for a long time. I think one of my very first ones was Dannon Brinkley, who's also been around for a while. I think he was my very first near-death experience, and when I heard his story, I was just like, you got hit by lightning 3 times and you went to the other side and and it was a pretty remarkable. And then I kept getting more and more of them on the show, and I kept talking to them and talking to them, and it was fascinating. And I've heard of near-death experiences, but it was really, really fascinating. And every once in a while, I get to talk to someone like yourself who's interviewed or had contact with thousands and thousands of near-death experiences. But before we go down that rabbit hole, what got you interested in this field of study?
Well, just normal things. I was frightened of death, and so I wanted to know what happened when you die.
Mhm.
And I had just retired, and I had spent my life looking at spirituality and religions, and I think it just was seeking truth, whatever that might be. Um, and I had been raised by atheists, so I had no background or preconceived notions at all. So I really felt very, very open to almost any concepts that fit for me. And so that's what I did for about 70 years now. Um, but then when I retired, I had all kinds of time, and I was on the NDERF chat line, and
Mhm.
Dr. Long asked for somebody to do research for him, and I thought, perfect timing. So that's what happened.
Yeah, you worked with Dr. Jeffrey Long, who was on the show as well, and he's one of those amazing researchers in this space who've really helped shine a light, along with Raymond Moody and a handful of others, who've
Yes.
done that. Now, so yeah, you didn't have any programming, as I call it, no preconceived dogmas or anything like that walking into this. So you didn't go, oh well, if I do this, am I going to go to hell, or am I going to do this, or am I going to upset that God? You were just like very wide open.
Yes, very, very. And actually, I really appreciate that at the time I wasn't sure because it was very, very confusing, but
Mhm.
I'm very grateful now.
What was the biggest surprise that you found when you started to do researches on near-death experiences?
I think the thing that hit me the most was the oneness. Um, and in the beginning of my book, I talk about um, STE, a spiritually transformative
Mhm.
experience that I had. And that experience was on oneness. And it sort of put that in front of me to be able to go in that direction. And so I think that that was the thing. I didn't understand it. For a long time, I thought it just meant that we were similar, or, I was one as another human being. But now I've gotten to the point where I understand that one means one. There's one soul, one entity, one being that is the consciousness of the universe, and we are it.
When you said you had an STE, can you explain what can you tell me with that story of what happened to you?
Oh, sure. Yes, I'd love to. Well, what happened was I was a single parent. I had three children, no, wait, they were 3, 4, and 5. No,
Okay.
4, 5, and 6. That's
Fair
so the
enough.
two older ones, yeah, in the afternoon, and the two older ones were in school. And the youngest one was down for the afternoon nap. And that was significant because my kids were very active. And so the fact that it was always, I had three experiences on completely different days. I had no idea they were coming, or I would have noticed. And and so the first experience, I'm doing dishes, and as I say, the place is quite quiet, and there's a window above my sink, and I can see into the yard. And in the yard, there's a tree, an apple tree, and so I'm just looking at the tree, and I'm really not thinking about anything. And all of a sudden, I became the tree. And it was like my consciousness was taken over. And I literally became that tree. And the tree was me. There was no separation at all. And I was every kind of life form that I could think of. I was the bird in the tree. I was in bug that the bird was going to eat. I was everything, and fish and other kinds of animals. And that was the end of the experience. It was like maybe 30 seconds long. I mean, I didn't time it, so I don't know, but I'm guessing. And then the next experience was a few days later. And this time I'm wiping fingerprints off the hall wall. And and I'm just looking at the wall, and again, I'm not thinking of anything, and the place is quiet. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing an atom with the electrons going around. And then I see our solar system with the sun and the planets going around. And then that expanded to our galaxy and sister galaxies, what I call sister. I think they're called clusters. But anyway, um, so it was like the micro to the macro universe. And while I'm getting this expansion, I'm getting messages that this didn't just happen, that there was order and planning and an intelligence behind it all. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. But then I got a message that I really did not like at all. And that was the end of the experience. And that message was that my being was intricately connected with the operation of the universe. And I couldn't get that. That scared me because I thought, what do you mean? What am I supposed to do? I'm really, this was in 73, so
Mm-hmm.
1973. So I really had no idea about any of this kind of thing. And then another thing that happened, again, as I say, that was the end of that experience. And then a few days later, I'm in the living room picking up toys and tidying up. And I felt a presence in the room with me. And it was like I couldn't see anything. I could just see my living room. That was it. But there was more love. Like it was like I was being surrounded and impregnated with more love than I can ever imagine. And it felt like I was connected somehow to this whatever. This
Mm-hmm.
I called it positive energy force. So to this positive energy force, I felt like I was connected. And then I heard words very clearly that said, this is where you came from, and this is where you will return. And that was the last of my experiences. But that one taught me that not to be so frightened of death, because, this was such a beautiful experience. Hey, when?
So this is years before you started doing research in near-death experience.
It was during my experience. I started researching when I was 16, and this was when I was mid 30s.
Okay, so you've been doing this work for quite some time.
Yes, 70 years this year.
Wow. Like, so you've really gone down the deep rabbit hole. It's fascinating because at those years, I'm not even sure if NDEs were, I think the first time Raymond Moody coined the phrase was what, in the late 70s, right? So
It was
that was,
75.
yeah, 75, mid 70s, so 75 when he said it. But the thing is that having these mystical experiences at that time, there weren't shows like this. There weren't books talking about it. So you were pretty, I can imagine you being a little bit afraid of what was coming at you to a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah. And I before that, when I was so frightened of death, that was what the whole thing was about. I
Mm.
wanted to find out what happened when you died. And my mother, being an atheist, had told me I'd just disappear. And I was an 8-year-old when
That's
she told me that.
that's
And so that
terrifying.
really scared me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't want to disappear. And so I wanted to find a better answer. And that was the beginning of my studies, and then that branched out from there to and it was only in those days, because we're going back to the 1950s, and
Hmm.
so in those days there was only religion. There was no
Wow.
spiritual kind of thinking at all. And so I studied all the religions and their histories, and what I found out I was looking for was truth.
We are in a time of great change, and humanity is awakening more and more every day. Mankind needs insights on what is happening to all of us. That is why I'm inviting you to Wisdom from Beyond, a 6-day virtual summit designed to awaken your soul. Experience over 9 hours of soul-expanding channeling sessions led by 6 of the world's most esteemed channelers. Connect with the divine, receive sacred insights, and transform your journey by asking questions directly to the channelers themselves. This is more than just a summit. It is your gateway to understanding the profound shifts happening within and around all of us. Plus, when you sign up, you receive exclusive bonus content to deepen your spiritual exploration. Join us and step into the extraordinary.
That's what it
Mm.
boiled down to. I was searching truth. Yeah.
So from your experience, what are some common themes that you see across all near-death experiences?
Oh, there's many, many,
Hmm.
many. But one of the big ones is that when people, there's two or three, but first of all, we create our own experiences. The death experience is what we think should happen. So that's point one. So that's why the variation between them, and why
Hmm.
different cultures will have different kinds of experiences, is because we create it. Um, the other thing was that almost universally, everybody would feel this oneness. They didn't call it that. Some did, some didn't. But they would say, I felt like I was connected to everything, and everything was connected to me. They really were very blown away by that. That was very significant for quite a few people.
So the idea, and I love that you brought this up because I get questions like this all the time. But when people find out that I do a show like this, they're fascinated with near-death experiences and what happens, and because there's not a soul on the planet who doesn't think about, hey, what happens after you die? Like we're all going there, like I always joke around, everybody wants to go to heaven, just not right now. Uh,
Yeah,
but the thing that I love that you said is that you construct your own near-death experience because
yeah,
because a lot of people who are, who like have a problem swallowing near-death experiences, understanding or even comprehending them, will say,
yes,
well, it's not all peaches and unicorns and rainbows on the other side. Look, there's these other people who went to hell, went to a hellish experience on the other side. And to my understanding, and also from the right straight from the horse's mouth, I've had a few people who come on the show who've had negative or hellish like
yes,
experiences. Generally, I'm going to say 98, 99% are all positive or neutral in one way, shape, or
yeah,
form. The hellish or negative experiences are extremely rare. But from what they told me is like my belief system made me believe that I needed to go down into a hellish experience. And once I was down there, once I decided I didn't want to be there anymore, Jesus, an angel, light came and took her or took him to where we all go in the other space. So it was kind of like this self-imposed hell prison, if you will, or negative prison. Is that what you've come across as well?
Well, the people, I've had quite a few of the hellish experiences as well. And what I have found is that that's what they thought they should have. Their
Right.
image of themselves or their training or whatever, that they created that as well, because some people were taken out of that experience before they came back. And when they were at the positive place after they'd been taken out, they said, "What is that all about?" And they were told repeatedly that that was your creation. You did that because that's what you thought you should have. The other piece of the business of recreating our death experiences is that it's exactly the same way we create this experience, our
Can
life
you
experience.
yeah,
That
dive
doesn't
into
we?
that a little bit? Yeah, dive into that a little bit. That's a very powerful statement.
Yes, yes, because we are source. That's the bottom line is we are source. And so we are magnificent. We can create and do anything we put our mind to do. And I know that people say that and it just sounds like a lot of good words, but it's true. It's really true. And so we are source and we create this experience from the point of view of being source. As a matter of fact, source is okay. So, how do I explain this? We never left source. We are at this point, right within source, and we are thinking and creating this experience second by second, moment by moment.
Yeah, without question. And when you are creating this, one of my favorite NDE stories, I don't even remember which episode it was, but he said, and I always joke around that Jesus is the hardest working man in show business because he shows up to a lot of a lot of NDEs especially in the West. And people who don't even know or study Jesus still show up. And there was this atheist who died. And when he went to the other side, Jesus was there in a three-piece suit with his hair pulled back. And he goes, "What do you?" Which
Love
is
it.
brilliant, which was brilliant. And he goes, "What?" He knew who of Jesus. He just never followed him because he thought he was an atheist. He goes, "Is Jesus? If that's you, why are you dressed like that?" He goes, "Well, you come from the business world. You wouldn't take me seriously if I showed up in a toga." And I was like, "Wow!" And so that was a literal construction of that. So let me ask you. Let's walk through the path of a near-death experience, step by step, if we could. So, once the body leaves or the soul leaves the body, there is a tunnel. Sometimes there's a tunnel, sometimes there's not, of light, depending on the culture, depending on where it is. But one of the very common themes is that you're welcomed by someone. Someone's there to help you to the other side. It could be a deity, could be Buddha, could be Jesus. Um, I read somewhere in ancient Chinese lore that politicians, terrifying as that is, politicians would show up to guide them through the other side. Apparently, it was a different part of that, different culture at that time, a different
Yeah, that
interpretation.
is fascinating. Yeah,
But then the but then there's your relatives or an aunt or uncle or even a friend from just a random friend from school in third grade that you
yeah,
recognize. These kind of
yeah.
things. Is that what you found?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Not everybody is
Correct.
greeted by someone, but 90% of the people are. Yes, you're right. Except for hellish people, they're not greeted. Usually, they just have bad experiences. um,
Right.
but yes, the ones who have positive experiences, I would say 90% of those are greeted by someone who's passed. And the reason why is because we are so steeped, and this is really important, we are so steeped into being human. like all of our consciousness is being put into this experience. And
Hmm.
so we don't understand that. I mean, we have complete amnesia when we come here. And so we don't understand our reality, and we don't understand what's happening to us. We have all these myths about death and so on. And so it's a good idea to have a guide or else loved ones to help us through. And so, yeah, that's quite true. Some people go directly to wherever they're going to wind up. Other people are in outer space for a while. Some people go to the void. So there's
Hmm.
different methods of getting there, but yes. Yeah.
And it is, and the loved ones or the deities are there to pretty much help you with the transition because, like you're saying, it is a very jarring jump out of, it's essentially coming out of like a deep, deep water in the middle of the ocean and coming
Yeah.
into the light. It's extremely jarring to your
Yes.
being. And to my understanding, it's also very confusing. Sometimes you don't
Yes.
even know that you've
Yes.
died, and you need someone
Yeah.
there to kind of, hey, it's going to be okay. And they literally walk you through many times
Yes.
to the next stage, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yes. And so they help you. And it just, as I said, we create our own experience. So we also create who meets us.
Right. Yeah. And it could, and again, on aunts, uncles, animals. Do animals, have you experienced that animals or pets are there as well
Oh,
as a
sure.
transitional
Oh, sure.
thing?
Sure. Your favorite pet? Yep, for sure.
All that stuff comes in. So so now you've got a transition. Either you're with somebody or you're not with somebody, but then you're going to the next stage. And that next stage varies dramatically from
Yes.
crystal castles to full cities to a pasture, a forest. I mean, I've heard all of it, all these different kind of things. But from
Yes.
what I understand, one of the next stages, and not every stage, is the life review. Can you dive into your experiences from your research on the life review and the meaning it truly has for us
Oh, the
here?
light review. Oh, okay. Um, and before I go on to the light review, let's go back after I
Please.
finish that, and talk about other kinds of experiences other than physical.
Let's go, yeah, so
Okay.
let's go into those first and then we'll go into the life review.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, well, yes, many, many, many people, because we are steeped in this existence, we um, we see ourselves as physical, and we continue to see ourselves physical. We've seen our body lying there, but we take a body with us, an ethereal body, and we created an ethereal world, and that's our creation. So whatever is our favorite place, I want to go to the
Mhm.
beach.
Mhm.
So those are the kind of experiences, but there's another experience that even goes much, much deeper. And these are people who enter into the light. Now, there's two levels of that. There's those who enter into the light, continue to see themselves as themselves, and experiencing personal experiences, and then leave and communicate with the light, because the light is a being with intelligence and great sense of humor. So, but the other thing is that people will um, become the light. They melt and absolutely are the light. And when they're there, they become creators with the light. And they can go back to the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. And I mean, there is no real beginning, but back to the beginning of our universe, and
Mhm.
watch how it created and how it all evolved, and gain vast amounts of information. Um, and sometimes they bring that information back, and sometimes they don't, unfortunately. But anyway, but the point is that they lose that concept of self and become this the light. And when they lose the concept of self, they're aware that they were that person at one point in time, and that they were these other life forms, not forms, but reincarnated lives. And so they remember all of those, but they're just learning experiences. It doesn't have any major significance, and so I really think that is the most significant death experience of all, is when
Which
they
is,
melt, become the light.
so they basically become part of the collective, if you will, the collective energy of this light. And to my understanding as well, that the information that they are downloaded with is instant. And they know basically they're piped into the internet of the other side, if you will, and all of a sudden can access the Akashic records, if you will, the entire knowledge base of the
That's
universe.
right.
And they like, oh, what's quantum physics? Oh, that's what quantum physics is. Oh, how do you, what's free energy? Oh, that's how you would have gotten free energy. Like this, or clean energy, that kind of thing. But to my understanding too, when they come back, they might bring, if they're lucky, snippets back. But this hardware cannot hold on to the mass amount. It's just like running, DOS, trying to run DOS on, or trying to run a new Mac today on DOS of 1950s, like, whatever it is, that old programming. The hardware just can't handle it, which is frustrating, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's right on.
Now, you also said something in regards to reincarnation. Now, this is a very touchy subject for so many people in the world, because I believe in reincarnation. It's, I'm a recovering Catholic, so I always, reincarnation makes sense to me. That this is only one life, and if you're just lucky to be born a male in this country at this time with this kind of resources, or born as a female or other in a poor, it didn't make any sense to me. Oh, so you're born with one leg, bad luck? Like I don't understand those things. But reincarnation made all the sense in the world to me. It's a logical thing. So how do near-death experiences challenge contemporary religions and dogmas? And what experiences have you had with I'm sure in your line of work, you've been confronted at one point or another by somebody who's like, that doesn't make any sense. The Bible says this, or my book says that, or my God says this. How do these near-death experiences challenge those ideas across all kinds of religions and dogmas?
Well, one of the things that's asked of the light is which religion is the best one, or the right one, or the whatever.
Correct.
And repeatedly people are told whatever religion fits for that person, there isn't one. So if it brings the person close to source and closer to God, then. But reincarnation, go back to being source, and here's how I explain it. If we could just imagine being this incredible intelligence, and I don't even know how big to say, but just this entity that's amazing. And it's all alone in nothingness, with just blackness around, no sounds, no sight, nothing. And if that were the case, creation would happen in a second, in a nanosecond, because the entity would not know that it was, or even if it did know it was, it wouldn't know anything about itself. So creation is to give back to source. That's what creation's for, and that's what we are. We are giving back. The life that we live gives back to source. And so that's the most important, I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Sure. It's what we're here to do. I always use the term God's algorithm. We're all little algorithms that go off and do their thing, grab information and bring it back to the creator of that algorithm, which is a God or source. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's get into life reviews, because life reviews are very powerful, powerful things, because when I first heard the first time of a life review, um, it kind of shook me to the core. I have friends of mine who's like, I've been watching your show. I gotta get my act together because I don't want to go through that life review. And you know, and it's almost a fear-based thing, but it's not, because we see it as, oh God, I don't want to be judged. To my understanding, there is no judgment. There's absolutely no judgment on the other side. It's kind of like, this is what happened. So can you dive in, please explain a life review and as a
Okay.
general idea?
Yeah, sure. Um, well, I'm sure that you've heard many times about life review and that you see your life from in detail. Some people see it in detail. Some people just the highlights and how we affect other people and how we, yeah, and that's the main point is it doesn't matter about our wealth or, how famous we
Right.
are or any of that. It's how we affected the world and other people. And so that is the significance. But the life review, there is no judgment, kind of, because we judge ourselves, but we take the consequences of our actions by reliving the experience we provide for others. So,
That is the powerful, powerful part of this whole thing. Is like, if I
yes,
hurt you,
yes,
I'm gonna be back in that scene. So like your consciousness flies back to that moment. You're in a
yeah,
basically in that moment in life, and I'm saying
yes,
something nasty to you, and
yes.
I feel what I feel when I'm doing it, but then I feel what you feel, and that's the scary part for people.
Yeah, yeah, and as I said before, we're one. So really, we are source judging ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
why there's no source from outside, or there's no judgment from outside, because we are source judging ourselves.
And when we
And that
judge
is
ourselves,
judgment, because people get upset with themselves sometimes and say, "Oh
yeah.
God, why did I do that?" Or, I shouldn't have done that. And repeatedly they are told, it's okay, it's just a learning experience.
Right. Well, it's the same thing. It's like getting upset for like when you're first starting to walk and you keep falling down. It's the equivalent of something like that, because you're like, what are you going to get yourself angry? You barely know how to walk. So if you're
Yeah,
doing things in a life that's not right, it might just be that you're just not able to walk yet and you're making these mistakes. And it's okay. It's
that's
part of the
absolutely.
process.
Yeah,
And whatever we do to others is part of their growing process as
yes,
well in one way,
yes, yes.
shape, or
And
form.
the echo that keeps going down the line until it fades out.
So, this concept of spirit guides, what is your experience of spirit guides and angels, in kind of like a council room, of elders, if you will, that are there during a life review sometimes, or after the life review, or before the life review, that kind of is explaining, like your council of elders. From what I understand, there's a council of elders. Maybe there's a head spirit guide that guides you throughout your life, and you see them on the other side. What's your experience with that?
Okay, keep in mind that we are one with those spirit
Yes,
guides. We
of
are
course.
connected to them. And so the spirit guide, I think, all guides, I think, are because we immerse ourselves so completely into being human that when we leave here, whether for a short time or for a long time, we need to have the guide to help us, just as we talked about earlier. We're too confused. We don't know what's going on. And so we need the guides. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, the guides on
Or,
the other side are there to kind of overlook your journey,
yeah,
maybe push you,
yeah.
like nudge you in the right direction
Ah,
of where you're supposed to
okay.
be
So,
going in life. But in once
okay.
you get to the other side, you're like, Henry, oh, Henry, thank you so much for helping me out. And they try, and
Yeah,
it's you're still
yeah.
kind of this transitional period where you're being explained, hey, you're decompressing. That's the word I wanted to use. You're
Okay.
decompressing from coming
Okay.
down from the deep, deep ocean. You need time
Okay.
to decompress as you go up, because if you go too fast, you
That's
get the
right.
bends.
Yes.
You get the
Yes.
bends. So they're
Yeah.
there to help you. They're like the decompression system.
Okay. So another part of the guide is that they're with us right now. in
Hmm.
this life experience that we
Hmm.
were experiencing the guides. And so that is because because of Source knows how difficult it is for us to be separated like this. Um, and so that's why we had the guides to guide us through it and help us if we can hear them. Some people can't, and some people can.
Now, and this is another part of the guides, which is, to my understanding, the guides are there to guide you through the soul plan that you laid out before you left the other side to
That's
come
right.
down here. So when you come down here, you are going down a road that you have preset. Like, I'm going to meet this person, I'm going to have this job, I'm going to live in this area. Big giant landmarks, if you will, on
That's
your
right.
journey. Can you
That's
dive in a little
right.
deeper to that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Before we come into this life experience, our souls, the soul that says, okay, I'm going to be a person, um, chooses a task that they want to accomplish in this life. And
Mm.
then with that task, they choose all the elements within their life that will help them to guide them towards that task. And so they will choose significant people, not everybody they ever meet, but the main people that are going to be in their lives that will guide them, or that the interaction will be significant to guide them in the right direction. Then there's the events in our lives, whether and not every event, but the major events. And that will help us to lead us in certain directions. And then there's the ourselves. We choose everything about ourselves, the color, the nationality, the country, the
Religion. Yeah.
yeah, every single thing that is going to be significant. It would be our baby toenail if it was significant, you
Mm.
know, to guiding us. However, there is a caveat on that
Mhm.
because um, sometimes we don't get to do whatever it is that we came here to do for various reasons because not everything is meant to be.
Mm.
And I don't like this statement of everything is meant to be because it's not. Um, some things are meant to be, but some things that are meant to be don't happen. The person that we are going to be interacting with leaves this world before we get to that, or um, some accident happens and changes things, or we just goof off and say, I don't want to, and we're just going to be, you
Right.
know. And so everything isn't written in stone. And because there is no time at the spirit level, it doesn't matter how long it takes us. We can have 5 lives if we want to accomplish our task. The point is that we are going to accomplish that task, whether it's 5 or whether it's 1. It doesn't matter.
Right. And so, in other words, you lay out a soul plan, and that's exactly what it is, a plan. And
Yeah,
as we all know, plans don't always go according to plan,
yeah,
because there's a lot of variables along the way. And
yeah,
it's really, truly because of this pesky little thing called free will that
yeah.
allows us
Very,
to,
exactly.
hey, you know what? I know I'm supposed to be an astronaut, but I really want to be a football player.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I'm just gonna go down that. And oh, I got injured. Oh, I can't now be an astronaut. And then it just throws your whole life out of way. It can't happen. And from what I understand, the guides are there to kind of push it, because if you go far off your soul plan, things become a lot more difficult. You're not as happy. You're not, because it's not connecting to the soul.
true,
You know,
true.
I was to my understanding, from what I was been told, I walked a parallel path with this
Right.
path that I'm on right now, which assisted in this path. But until the roads met, I was
Mhm,
on a parallel path with this. And I was like,
mhm.
oh, that, because I always wondered, like, why am I in this path? I loved it. It was great, but it really never brought me, I had moments of happiness, but it never
Right.
felt, I was never fulfilled in this
Yeah,
grand way. But the second I jumped onto this path, I was like, oh, this is what this
Yeah.
feels like. It's and it needed time, by the way. 20 years ago, this path wouldn't have worked because the
That's
world
right.
wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. People, it was a very interesting thing. Now on the next stage after the life review, what have you come across? Like, what are the variable things? Because we're talking about near death experience. It means it's near death. So we have no idea what happens after a certain point. What are some other experiences, some of the most that stuck out to you? Or are there any other common things that I haven't mentioned that you found in many near-death experiences?
Yes, I think thought, consciousness, our we really don't recognize um, how significant our thoughts are, and that really is a major thing, because we are thought, we are consciousness. That is how we've been created, through thought. And so what we think about is powerful, really powerful. And we really need to know that and to understand that and to guide our thinking in a more positive direction, to be more than that we can be, you know.
Now, from your research, have you found that many near-death experiencers get to a point of no return? Like there is a place where they cannot cross. There's like a doorway. There is a
Yeah,
river,
yeah.
that kind of thing. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, there are experiences that they get to this point and they're not allowed, and they that's fine, but there are others who don't get that point. They
Correct.
they can go anywhere. So it's a little confusing sometimes. Why some and not the others? Why are some people not given a choice and shoved back into their bodies sometimes, and they're praying not to come back? And other people are given a choice. Well, do you want to stay or do you want to go? So it doesn't seem to be written in stone.
The other thing I've heard is that near-death experiences happen to people because of multiple reasons. Whereas in the soul plan, they laid out exit points in the life if things aren't going the way they wanted to. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, so we lay out the map, and you're like, you know what? At 35, if I haven't hit something, let me pop out real quick, and I'll let you know if I want to keep going or I'll just start again.
Yeah.
And then, maybe at 70, there's another exit point, and you could decide at that point when you want. So that's one reason. Another reason is you've gone so far off the path that your spirit guides have been yelling at you and you can't hear it. So they go, if we don't do something, he or she is going to go, it's going to be a wasted life. So we got to shake the heck out of them and hit them with a car,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
and knock some
yeah.
sense, at least knock them into sense. Is that what you found as well?
Yes, yes, yes. That happens for sure. But yeah, that makes sense for why people are sent back or not, though, too. If they are off on the wrong track, then, do it again. Yeah.
You said that in regards to reincarnation, that you said that you get to see lives that you have lived. I've understood that you could see not only lives that you have lived, but lives that you are going to live as well. And then if you
Yes,
really want to get metaphysical, or not metaphysical, quantum physics aspect of it, is that there is technically no past life, there's technically no future lives. All lives are happening at the same time because there is no time
yes,
on the other side. And we have
that's right.
our soul is fractals into all the. So right now, you and I are in Rome, in ancient Rome.
Yes,
We are in ancient Atlantis, in ancient Egypt, having multiple experiences, and that
yes.
they kind of ripple. So things you learn in one ripples to this life. And like, I was going to learn
Yeah,
this lesson, but I just learned it over in Egypt. Does that
yeah.
make any sense? Can you explain it to people?
No, well, no, I can't, because that is confusing. But it
Sure.
is true that even though there is no time and everything does happen at the same time or simultaneously, we learn. So that's a progression thing. Another thing
Right.
is that people, when they're talking about their death experiences or near-death experiences, we'll talk about that this happened and then this happened, and that's a sequence kind of thing, and yet there's no time over there. So some NDers will say, "Well, I explained it that way because how else can I explain it to you? You know, it all happened at once, but this is the way I can make it sense for you."
So when they, and you kind of touched upon this, that many times you have a choice on the other side. Hey, do you want to go back? I
Yes.
understand when you go to the other side, it's so beautiful, it's so blissful. The love is everywhere. It's something that you can't comprehend. Why would you want to come back to this? This is tough. This is heavy. This is like wearing a, 500-pound suit on you all the time. Many of them say, no, 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 no. I don't, are you kidding? I'm not going back to that place. And they're either forced back, meaning like, no, it's not your time. Boop. But many times they're like, it's your choice. And a lot of times they look back and go, oh, I can't leave my kids. Oh, I can't leave my wife. I can't leave my family. They're going to hurt too much. And that's what brings them back. What's your experience?
Sometimes it's a family, and but I would say the majority of the people, 80%, don't want to come back. There are people who say, "Oh, I need to go back because I'm, my children or my job or some reason they have to come back for," and but most people don't want to come back, and they fight. They absolutely get into temper tantrums, and
Yes.
yep,
They-
and they're
They're like, no.
shoved into their body.
They're like children, like, no, I don't want to go back. No, I don't want to eat my vegetables. I do not want to eat my vegetables. No, I don't. And they, because the second you get slammed back, it's, depending on what situation you are in, it can be pretty rough. They do, like you say, they do learn a bunch of things. They do understand things. The way communication is on the other side is nonverbal. It's telepathic, but it's
That's right.
it's instant
Yes,
telepath. It's so
yes,
you understand everything that's happening in the scenario that you're in
yeah,
instantly. So it's like
yeah,
downloading an entire movie
yeah,
in a second and just go, oh, got it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that
It
is that
is
correct?
just like that. Yeah, there's just everything goes boom, and all the questions that they ever thought of asking are answered. So
Instantly.
it is amazing. Yeah, yeah.
So when these near-death experiencers come back in your research, what have you found in regards to their psychological profile, in the sense of not only dealing with this experience in the real world? So you have this amazing mystical experience. You get thrown back down to this heavy, dense, three-dimensional world that we're in. And yet a lot of them I've heard don't talk about it for 20 years.
Mm,
Many of them
mm.
just have a problems, just dealing with it. What's your experience of because some of them are like, woohoo, I'm ready. I got my mission. I'm ready to go. And it doesn't bother them. So again, it's case by case, but what's your experience with your research?
Yeah, I would say that I would maybe half um, are reticent to talk about it because they're told they might mention it to somebody and be told either don't tell anybody because they're going to think you're crazy, or they get told, uh, oh, that was just an hallucination, or it was the drugs that we gave you, or something like that. So yes, they don't like to be told that. That's true. Yeah.
But
And
but
I wanted to mention people who've had um, death experiences that are like they wake up in the morgue in a state of rigor mortis and they've been dead for 13, 14 hours.
really, you've heard of those?
Yes, I have some in my book. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really? Because I've heard hour and a half, 2 hours even, that they were gone. They should have been brain dead. Multiple stories of brain dead, and
Mhm,
there's
mhm.
no possible way they can come back. You have
Yeah,
13 to 14 hours in the morgue. They just
yes,
wake
yes,
that poor
yes.
mor
They're in the
that poor
state.
guy. poor maintenance guy in the room.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly. But they can't move. They can't let anybody know that they're back. And so various ways they get that message across. Usually with their eyes, they, can move their eyes, but they can't move their body. And so they'll look at the maintenance guy, and then he'll notice, oh yeah, they're looking at me. And so things like that. One woman was being identified by her brother-in-law, and so he noticed that the tears coming, and so he said, "Do dead people cry?" And that's when they realized this woman was back, but she was frozen. She couldn't move.
So how do you come back
So
from it though? Physically, how do you come back from it physically? Like if your rigor mortis
I
is set
know
in,
that. And one girl said that it was very, very painful because the blood had,
stopped,
whatever it's called, I've forgotten the name, but anyway, it had
coagulated.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so she, she had to force her blood to start moving again through her body. And that was, she said, was the most painful thing she'd ever had to do. Yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
So
I have one man, and this is recorded. Um, 29 hours he was gone. 29 hours. Yeah, it's in my book. Yeah.
how do you explain? How do you like? How does a doctor explain that? Like how does science explain 29
Yes,
hours?
I want to
Oh,
know that too. That's the one, those are the ones, the long term experiences. And the ones that don't happen in a hospital are the ones that I would like to see more studies done. Because when a person dies in a hospital, the hospital is probably the worst place in the world to find out if a death experience is a death experience or whether it's a near death experience and whether it's legitimate or not. Because when a person dies in a hospital, within minutes, they're resuscitated. So that's too soon to know whether it's real or not, or drugs or the brain
mhm,
breaking
mhm.
and so on. So I want more experience, more research done on those long term ones, and ones that die out or are almost dead, are away from the hospital where there's no immediate medical help. Those are the ones I want to see more work on.
And these long-term deaths that came back, uh, they kept living a normal life after they got their body started again?
Yes, yes, they did. Yes, once they were thawed,
Thawed?
if I yeah, if I can call it that. Yeah, once they were, able to move, and so but instantly they're up in the, as soon as somebody sees that
Of
they're
course.
alive, then bang, you know. One fellow was dead for 3 days. George Rodnatus.
Hmm.
Rodden, and I can't, it's Rodden, but, and then it ends with AI. And he was a Russian man who got hit by a car, and they put him in the morgue because he was dead, and they left him there for 3 days. And he came back when they started to do an autopsy, and they were just cutting into him, and he was
He
back.
woke up. Oh my God. Can you imagine the poor? Oh my God. The mortician. Oh God. That poor guy or gal who was doing that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
their worst nightmare. That's their worst nightmare. I'm sure that is literally their worst nightmare. So from all these years that you've been studying these NDEs, in what ways do you see NDEs influencing modern spirituality?
Oh, I see it everywhere. I love it. I can see that NDEs are just making such a change in the world. And that's fabulous. That is absolutely marvelous. People who tell about their experience, people are more aware of oneness. They're more aware of their conscious thought. They're more aware of that there is something beyond, you
Mhm.
know. There's a lot of really beautiful things.
Now, what are lessons that we can learn from NDEs that we can integrate into our daily lives?
Well, My message is that you are magnificent and you don't know it. And you really, really, really need to believe that, because you can accomplish so much more than you ever thought you could. We just put ourselves down. I used to be a family counselor for 30 years.
Mhm.
And in my work, I was absolutely astonished at how many people not dislike themselves, hated themselves. They were
Mhm.
absolutely hated themselves. And because they didn't live up to some image that had been put forth before them. And that is almost criminal, because in reality, they are magnificent. Everyone.
What part does forgiveness play in the transformative power of NDEs? Because forgiveness is something that really can liberate a human being.
Yes, yes. They get, even if you have a big problem, no matter what your loved ones, just to tell your audience that um, all issues are forgiven. It doesn't matter. If you had an issue with that person before that person died, and you have it on your conscience that, oh God, they died and I wasn't able to talk to them or work it out, it's okay. From their point of view, they love you more than you can ever imagine. And they've completely forgiven. Forgiveness is a big one, yeah.
Now, how do NDEers describe their connection with this higher consciousness, with this divine presence? What is the language that they've used in your research of how they connect with this consciousness, with source, if you will? Or is it just
And
something instinct?
most of them will say that they felt that they were a part of this source or a part of this. But I would say that that is probably about 30%. The rest of the people just see the light up there, and it's out there. It's very beautiful. They relate to it, but that's as far as it goes. But those who actually connect with the light and talk to the light and experience the light recognize that they are connected somehow with that light.
Now, I have to ask you this question because I've heard these stories, and I'd love to hear if you've heard it in your research. Right now, we as human beings believe, many of us believe that this is it. This is the only planet in the universe that has any sort of life or any sort of experience. Though science has proven that chances are there's other Earth-like planet, actually billions of Earth-like planets
Yeah,
in the seeable universe, let alone the unseeable universe. It's so
yeah.
massive and grand. Have you ever heard of any NDE experiences that talk about other planetary experiences, other kind of bodies or other kind of species of experiences as not
Yeah.
just human?
Yeah, yes. Yes, there are people who talk about that. I don't put that in my book,
Mhm.
um, but there are people who do uh, feel that they're connected. No, wait, just a moment. Sorry. But
If
repeat
there
your
was
question.
other, if there was, so if the question is if there was other in the near death experiences that they see themselves or have been in past lives in other experiences, other planets, other kind
Oh,
of
yes, yes,
beings
yes, yes.
besides just
Mm,
human.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And some people will ask, take me to a planet, another planet where there's life, in this universe, and they will be taken there. Okay, here you are, and then they'll also be taken. One person I remember asked to take me to the most advanced, and he went to this place where they didn't communicate verbally; they telepathic, and they were almost surreal. They were, this life form, um, but almost like a ghost almost. But then they asked to go to one of the least evolved planets, and they went to something like, you know, caveman kind of thing, or very primitive life forms.
Really? That's fascinating. I mean, just to go down those roads. It is pretty fascinating.
I think
Since you go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're interested, you can probably go to NDERF, Near Death Experience Research Foundation, and they have a research engine that you can probably find that information, other
Well,
planets. Maybe
oh, I
just Google,
appreciate it.
NDEs on other planets or other life forms.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for that piece of information. Now, I do have to ask you, are you afraid of dying anymore?
Not anymore. No, I used to be, but no, I'm 86 now, so I better not be because I've got a lot of stuff. I'm not, I don't have one foot in the grave though. I'm doing very well for my age, and I
Yes.
know I'm good. Well, unless I get into an accident, I'll be in my 90s by the time I leave this world. But yeah, I just love life too much. I'm enjoying myself too much, and I have too much more to
To do.
do and to say and to write
Yes.
about and tell people. So yeah.
If there's someone watching right now who is either afraid of dying or in the process of dying, because a lot of people who watch these kinds of shows want to learn about the other side because they're either close because of a prognosis, or they had a loved one who's about to go or has just gone. What
Right.
what message do you have for these people watching?
Well, one of the messages is to know that your loved one is very aware of you and what's happening in your life. Because I repeatedly hear people say, I wish so and so had been here for this wedding or this graduation or for this award or whatever. And they're there. They hear it, they see it, they know what's going on. They know they connect with us very intimately. So that's not a big deal. So don't feel that they haven't been there because they have. And as I said before, all issues are gone. They don't exist. They're just a myth. Death is a beautiful experience. And it's like going home. That's what everybody says. I want to go home. Like once they've been there and they want to go back, they say that they want to go back home. So to them, that's home. And so it's like a rest period in between lives.
Yeah, so what is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Oh, a fulfilled life. You know what? We are not here to suffer, to have all the angst that we have in this world. We're not here for that. We're here to experience, to be, to exist, to get in there and just be as much as we can be in our particular field, whatever that is. And so that's our reality, is to get in there, and that's what we're here for, is to enjoy. We're here to be. There's a wonderful experience that I love, and her name is Hafur, Hafur,
Mhm.
and you can find her by googling her name, Hafurnde, and she was just an ordinary housewife. She had no interest in this whole spiritual business at all. And she had such a profound death experience and came back with such magnificent lessons and understanding that she spells out in very clear language. And most of it is the beauty. And she says repeatedly, I wasn't supposed to be suffering like I am or like I was. I was here to have fun. I was here to enjoy life and be. And so, yeah,
Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Lynn, what advice would you give her?
to little Lynn. Oh yeah, little Lynn was my childhood, and my earlier years were really quite rough, and so I've had a very difficult time. And I was assessed as mentally slow and put into special classes for kids that are mentally slow. And being mentally slow, everybody made my decisions for me. But the other thing that happened with that was that abuse, because, I don't count as much. And so that was my childhood experience. And if I could go back and talk to that woman or that child, I would tell her to have faith, to know that everything is going to be beautiful in the end.
Oh, that's a great message. How do you define God or source?
Oh, just, well, I think that God, love is the love that we feel is our reconnection to the power or the essence of our being, which is love. I think God's essence is love, and that love is the power that it creates with. So that would be one thing, but also consciousness. So I see God as a positive creative force. I don't see God as a person or a being or any. As a matter of fact, to be honest, I don't even think there's a light. I think people see light because we need something to relate to. But I think in reality, source or the positive energy doesn't have anything. It's just a being.
What is love?
Intelligence.
What
love is the essence of our being. Love is the essence of who we are. We are created in love, and we are love. And so my motto at the bottom of when I send things out is to be the love that we are, because that's our reality.
What is the ultimate purpose of life?
Oh, ultimate purpose of giving back to source, to being, to helping source to be, to experience and know itself.
And where can people find out more about you, your book, and all the amazing work you're doing in the world?
Well, my book is Beyond NDEs, the next step in near-death experience research. And you can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel, Lynn K. Russell channel. And my name, Lynn K., you have to put the K in there or else you'll never find me, because there's a bazillion Lynn Russells in the world. And so Lynn K. Russell, just Google my name and you'll find me. And I also have a website, and I have a contact on my website, so you can find me there as well.
And that would be LynnKRussell.com?
LynnKRussell.com. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Just what I've already said, that believe in yourself, trust yourself, know that you are much, much more than you think you are, and that you can do way more than you think you can do. That's my big message.
Lynn, it has been such a pleasure and honor speaking to you today. It's been refreshing and wonderful, and I learned a bunch of stuff in this conversation, and I appreciate you and everything you're doing to awaken the planet. So thank you again, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being here. I've enjoyed chatting with you. Great questions.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.